some declining balance depreciation. Is that right, guys? Let's go through that. Maybe we'll go over the change in estimated life. That. Anything else you'd like to do? Have you got the quiz out to start working on it? Good idea. I'll probably go over some of that stuff this afternoon. How many are going to make it? Few of you. That's it. Okay. And the rest of you are going to watch this, you think? Yeah, that's dangerous. But if you can be here, I would. You know what's dangerous about it is not that it's bad to watch it online. That's just fine. What's dangerous is you won't do it. Then that's, you know, I meant to, I always meant to, and it just never happened. I just have to get released. Anyway, but that's fine. You got the whole spring break to do it. As long as somebody's here, I'll do the review. If no one shows up, I'm going home. All right. So, but there are a few folks here. All right. Anyway, so what do we have? A piece of equipment. Piece of equipment. It costs us how much? 120. 130. 130. Let's use the same example. Why? Okay, so 130,000. I guess the salvage value, the residual value must be 30. Right. So that made our depreciable value 100. Same no matter what method we're using, right? We're going to depreciate 100,000. We're going to stop. Difference with declining balance of any kind, double declining, 150, 175, 125, whatever it is. We're going to take our depreciation based on the cost, not the depreciable value. So that's different than all the other methods, okay? We're not depreciating 100% of it. We're always depreciating a portion of what's left. Declining balance, right in the name. So what you do is you do not double straight line depreciation if it's double declining balance, right? Or 150% times it if it's 150% declining balance. Don't do that. What you do, you say, look, what was their life on this thing, by the way, computers? 5 years with it? Okay. All right, so we still use the same life. We still use the same salvage value. Okay, so what we're going to do, this is double declining balance, which means 200% declining balance, right? Doubles 200%, okay? What we're going to do is we're going to figure out what it would have been straight line. So what would it be, 1/5 straight line? You know, 1/5 a year, straight line, 20%? I would do 20% a year to a straight line. Double it, no kidding. That's all you got to do. So it's going to be 40% of the declining balance, which means the remaining book value, okay? That's it. What if it was 150% declining balance, what would you have here? We take 1.5 times 20%, we'd have 30% here. Got it? Everybody good? Just not a big deal. Okay? Calculate. All right, so let's do this. Let's do for each year. Year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's do year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And let's figure out depreciation expense, because that's going to be what? What are we going to do with that depreciation expense every year? Debit, depreciation expense. And then we'll credit accumulated depreciation. It's always the same, right? It's just different methods of calculating it. So I've got accumulated depreciation, and what we'll do is we'll show the accumulation of that here. Okay? Because, of course, we close depreciation expense each year. We do not close accumulated depreciation. You guys getting down the idea of closing entries pretty well? We didn't really need to cover what we're doing. Right? I mean, you got the idea, right? With what we're doing. Okay, anyway, and then the difference between our cost, which is 130, right, guys? Difference between our cost and our accumulated depreciation is called what? Book value? Or carrying value? Maybe net equipment, right? Equipment less accumulated depreciation is net equipment. Buildings less accumulated depreciation is net building, but that's the book value, right? Got it? Okay. All right. So what would we do the first year? We take 40% of what? What is the book value at time 0 at the beginning? If you want to think about it that way. What's the book value when we start? There's no accumulated depreciation. It's 130,000. So I'm going to need your calculators for this one. What are we going to do? 0.4 times 130. That's it. Take the remaining book value, which of course starts at time 0 at the beginning, at 130. What's 40% of that? 52,000. Debit. Depreciation expense. Credit. accumulated depreciation. And now, what's the remaining book value at the end of year 1, which is the beginning of year 2? What do you got, guys? 130 less 52, don't you? How much is that? 78,000. Just like that. Can I do year 2? Oh, by the way, if I was doing a half year, what would I do? Calculate it exactly that way and take half of the 52. Got it? For half year. 1/4 of the year, I take 1/4 of it. And then I just keep calculating the same way, right? I'd have a different remaining book value, but I'd still take 40%. Okay? All right? So what do we got? We got 78,000 starting year 2. How much is your depreciation for year 2 then? It's 40% of that, right? It's always 40% of what's left. Okay? And that's because we have a 5-year life, right? Okay, 20% of your straight line, double it. Okay? 40%. So what's 78,000 times 40%?
31,200.
Guess what the journal entry is? Debit, depreciation expense, credit, accumulated depreciation. No big deal. What's now the balance in accumulated depreciation? 83,200, right, guys? What's the remaining book value? Remember, be careful. It's not 100 less 83.2, right, guys? It's 130 less what you're going to show on the balance sheet. Okay? That's a pretty common error. You can understand why people would make. Okay? On all these methods it is. So what's 130 less 83.2? What's left to depreciate, in other words? 46.8. What's 78,000 less 31.2? 78 less the 31.2 we just depreciated gets to 46.8. You go either way, couldn't you? Right? We're fine. What are we going to have in the 3rd year? Oh, by the way, what do we want to be careful of? We do not want to go below 30,000. This is going to be an interesting one. What's 46.8 times 40%?
18,000.
But we can't do 18,700 and something? But we can't do that. What's the max we can do, you guys? 16,800. So, kind of an absurd example, wasn't it? What's the deal? As soon as I hit 100,000 accumulated depreciation, I'm going to stop. So I guess I'd have no depreciation for the other 2 years. Now here's what you really do. Usually, when you use a declining balance method, you do not set a salvage value. One just falls out automatically. So let's do it that way. If I did do the 30,000 salvage value, this is what you give me though, right? And what would you have for year 4 and year 5? Nothing, nothing. It'd stay at $100,000 and you'd have 30,000, right? Remaining book value. Okay, if I gave you a 30 salvage value. All right. Let's say we set no salvage. So this time, let's do no salvage value. Okay? Let's see how it would work out. All right, so let's see. I do not have that. I just got 100. I've got the 200,000, 130,000. Sorry, $130,000 asset, and I'm going to depreciate it, right? The whole time. Will we still have a salvage value? Yeah, because you're always taking 40% of what's left, right? So you're going to have 60% of whatever's left at the end, huh? That kind of is, okay? All right. So what's 40? What is 46,800 then times 40%? This time you would use that, okay? How much is that? Numbers are getting strange. 18 what? Is it 18? 720. Debit, depreciation expense, credit accumulated depreciation. Now what's your balance in accumulated depreciation? 101,920. What's your remaining book value? 130 less 109,920, which is how much, guys? 28,020? 080. Is that what that is? Rest of my math skills. Okay, good. And then what? For year 4, 40% of that. How much would it be, guys? I can't do that. 28,080 times 0.4. You guys don't like to share.
11,230.
Excellent. Okay? Debit depreciation expense. Credit accumulated depreciation, right? Now what do we have? 101,920 plus 11,232, I guess. How much is that?
113,150.
Okay, everybody got it? That'd be accumulated depreciation at the end of year 4. Okay, and what's my remaining book value? 130 less 113, 152, I guess, huh? What's that? 16? What it is?
16,848.
848. All right, good. What would you do in year 5? 40% of that. What's 40% of 16,848? 4, 6, 7, 3, 1. Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. All right. What's that? 3,9. Okay. Good. Debit depreciation expense. Credit accumulated depreciation. What do you now have in accumulated depreciation? 119. 891. What's my remaining book value at the end then? Because we're already done with 5 years now, right? 10. 109. Ta-da. What if you keep it a 6th year, 7th year? No depreciation, right? Okay. Now, what if I asked you, what if I gave you a question? I says, okay, it's got a 5-year life, 130,000 cost. What is depreciation expense for the 4th year? What would you need to do to get it? So you got to calculate it all down to the 4th year. Okay. What if I said, what's the accumulated depreciation at the end of the 3rd year? Calculate it down to the 3rd year. So here's the answer to the first one, right? You'd have to get that number. Well, you got to calculate to that point, right? So it's going to be tougher than if it was straight line. What if I say, what's the depreciation expense of a straight line? It's all the same every year. Calculate it, right? Give it to me. Okay, no big deal, right? What if I ask for accumulated depreciation at the end of the 3rd year? There it is, right, guys? 101,920. You'd have to calculate down to that point, wouldn't you? What if I ask for the book value at the end of the 5th year? You got to go all the way down there, don't you? It's a big deal. And I could do that for any of the methods, right? What's nice with straight line is what? It's all the same. And what if it's at the end of 4 years? Take what it is per year times 4. You got accumulated depreciation. What if you want book value at the end of 4 years? Figure the depreciation expense for 1 year, take it times 4, right? You got the accumulated depreciation, subtract that from the cost, and you got the answer, don't you? Just relax and figure it out, you guys. It's like people's brains fry when I don't make it just real straightforward, as straightforward as this. It's like, it's making it easier, not harder, okay? All right. Let's, what if I said, oh, you know what? Units of production is pretty easy, too. If I ask for accumulated depreciation after 4 years, and you know what the units produced were for the 4 years, you can just add up the units for the 4 years and take it times whatever the cost per unit is. Done. Book values cost less that number, right? It's just not a big deal. For any one of the years, what would you do? You take the production for that year, the actual production, times the cost per unit, right? You got the depreciation expense for that year. This is going to be real simple if you work at this a bit, okay? Not bad at all. Okay, let's do this. What if I decide at the end of 4 years to sell this thing? Formulate the journal entry in your head. We already did this, but I want you to do it one more time. Formulate it in your head or write it down if you need to. 2 different sales prices. I'll just use 2. Okay, so I'm doing it when at the end of year 3? Or end of year 4. I said end of year 4. I could either ask what the gain or loss is, or I could on the sale, or I could ask you to do the journal entry. If you do the journal entry, you know the gain or loss, don't you? So let's do it. Let's say I sell it for, I'm doing it at the end of year 4, $20,000, or I get $10,000. 2 different sales prices. Got it? All right, journal entry for 20. End of when, I said? Year 4. So what do you have to get rid of? You got to get rid of the equipment. What would that be? For either one of those entries, what would it be? Credit what? Equipment for how much? 130? Yeah. What else do you need to get rid of? Accumulated depreciation. So for either one of those entries, what would you do? Debit. What? Accumulated depreciation for how much? 113, 152, right guys? Because the book value is that 16, which is what you really got rid of. Huh? Everybody agree with that? You guys have a little puzzle. Sure. Okay. So here we go. We're doing at the end of year 4 here. We are going to credit equipment because we don't have it anymore. How much do we pay for it? 130, and you know there'd be $1 million in the account or $2 million in the account. You're just getting rid of $130,000 asset, right? It's one of them. Okay, and you get rid of the accumulated depreciation. We did this last time. We do a lot of stuff pretty fast. Okay, so the difference between those is the book value, right? Then what would you do in A?
We would debit the gain.
Ooh, wait a minute. First, what happened? We got what? Cash. Debit cash. The gain would be a credit, wouldn't it? Because it's increasing income, a loss would be a debit. Everybody agree with that? Okay, yeah. All right. So this is 20,000, isn't it? Because that's how much cash we got. You got 20,000 for an asset that's on your books at 16,480. What happened to you? You have a gain. What's the difference between the 20,000 gain on sale? Okay. Yeah, the difference between 20 and 16,848 is 3,152, is it?
Yeah.
And that's gain, isn't it? Do we need that gain to make the journal entry balance? Of course we did. Got it? Okay. Let's do B. What changes? You think the equipment still costs 130? Of course it did, right? So you're still going to credit the equipment for 130. This is going to be easy. You need to get rid of the accumulated depreciation. If you get rid of the equipment, well, otherwise you got a negative asset, right? Zero asset less accumulated depreciation. I don't know what that means. So you get rid of the accumulated depreciation. You mean no matter what I sold it for, it's the same entry for those two? Of course it is, because you're getting rid of that asset. And then of course you'd record whatever cash you got, right? In this case, how much cash did you get? Only 10. Gee, I don't know about you, but I think if I got 10,000 for a 16,848 asset, I'd lose money. How much would I lose? Loss on sale, how much? 6,848. You can't miss these gains. You practice a little bit and you know what you're doing and you just relax and let yourself think, you're just going to have chances. Okay? How would I make it hard? I'd make you do the depreciation first. I'd give you a lot of points if you did that, right? So don't panic. Go ahead and figure out what the depreciation is. This would be a tough problem, but if I had that sale and I just says, oh, this was their method and this is how many years they had it, you'd have to do these first 4 years, wouldn't you? You'd have to do that whole schedule and then do your journaling, right? But just relax and do it. I'll give you more points if it's harder, usually, right? Sometimes I give you almost none for the really hard stuff, don't I? That's because I want you to learn it for the test, but I know you're not going to know it yet. I don't want to penalize you too much. Every once in a while, you see 1 or 2 points of something you worked on really hard. And it kind of sucks if you got it right. Okay? No reward. Okay. Get it on the test. All right. So, that's a technical term. So. All right. Anyway, so what do we do now? Want to change lives? What if we buy an asset, we depreciate it for a while, and then we decide it's going to last a longer or shorter period of time? What do we do? This is a change in estimates. Changes in estimates are handled in the current year, prospectively into the future. We don't go back and do a prior period adjustment. Doesn't go to retained earnings. Doesn't go to the prior years, right? We made the best estimate we could, and we're moving forward, right? So we don't go back and restate the prior years. We made the best estimate we could. And now we have different information. We find out the asset's not going to last as long or it's going to last longer. Okay, either way, it's going to be the same basic process. So let's say I bought a truck for $100,000, and it had a salvage value of $20,000. So what's my depreciable value? $80,000. And let's put a life on it of 10 years. Because we're a crazy person. The truck that's going to last for 10 years costs $80,000. Yeah. Because we don't know what we're doing, I guess. That's our best estimate. We thought it really would last 10 years. I guess we're not going to use it very much each year. It's going to last 10 years. Okay, just local deliveries or something. Okay, so it's going to last us for 10 years. It's a repair truck. Yeah, nice pickup, repair truck. We think we're only going to be really low. Okay? Not use it a lot. Use it every day to drive it almost not. Okay? All right. So here we go. $80,000, 10 years. Tell me if we're using straight line depreciation. Make it easy. It'd be the same method, it's just a more complex calculation, right? If it was a declining balance method or some other method, right? Okay, so anyway, we're going to use straight line depreciation. What are you going to do each of the years? Debit what? Depreciation expense. How much? 8,000. Credit. Accumulated depreciation. So what I've got is a piece of equipment, trucks, I guess. Call it trucks if you want. We got 100,000 in it. And each year that goes by, I will have accumulated depreciation. How much? Because I'm debiting depreciation expense, crediting accumulated depreciation, right? Okay. What am I going to have? 8,000 for each year? Let's say I did it for 5 years, okay? What would I have in here after 5 years? Yeah, so if I told you 5 years, Jesus, it's 8,000 times 5, you guys, right? Simple, isn't it? Okay? All right, what's my remaining book value of this thing? 60, right? I wanted to depreciate it down to 20, didn't I? But I'm not even close. Okay, so 5 years have gone by. So this is 5 years. And now we decide we were way too optimistic. It's only going to last 8 years, right? I'm using it more than I thought. We were only in Louisville, and now we're all over Jefferson County. How much you repair? Maybe we expanded. Maybe we go into Southern. Yeah, you got the idea? So we're putting more miles on it. It's going to get you. We decide that. Okay, so now I change my life. Okay, so change my life. That's good. Okay, change to 8 years. What you got to do is figure out how many years are left to spread the depreciation over the remaining years. Oh, let's change something else. Let's say we also change our estimate of the salvage value. Let's change this to 10,000 because we're going to have a lot more miles on it. Got it? So we're going to use it up more. We're going to use it faster and use it up more too. So let's change both of those. Okay, what I want to do then is spread the remaining depreciation over the remaining years. I'm not going to go back and fix the earlier years. So how many years are left now? I used 5, there's 3 more, okay? So the life now is 3, and we'll stay straight line, okay? Probably would. So now I've got 3 years to spread it over, don't I? Including the current year, okay? Got 3 years. And what will I do here? How much do I have left to depreciate? Oh, what we could do is we could take our book value right now when we make the change. What is my book value right now when we make the change? 100 less 40, 60,000. So I have that left, except I want to have a salvage value still, don't I? But it's not 20 anymore. What is it? It's 10. So how much am I going to depreciate over the next 3 years, gang? The remaining depreciable value, 50,000. This is too easy to believe, isn't it? That making sense? Let's change the future, okay? Current year and the future. So what's 50,000 divided by 3 years? So it's going to be each year. Is that 13,333? And 33 cents. Is that right? Okay. 16,667. I get 30. That's 40,000. Okay. And 16,667. Okay. 666, whatever. Okay. Right, guys? Debit depreciation expense, credit accumulated depreciation. Now look what happens here. Is I keep crediting accumulated depreciation. Now I go 16,667. 1, 2, 3 years, right, guys? This is the 6th year. This is the 7th year. This is our last year, our 8th year. What are we going to have in here? 66, 67. What do I have in there? You add it all up. What does that come up to, everybody? 90,000. We are miracle workers. What if I give you something like that? What a big deal? Okay. Okay, for next time. Oh, we haven't done everything in this chapter yet, but we'll do some of the stuff in the review. Right? Take a look at it. We've done the real meat of it. There's natural resources and amortizing patterns. Amortization expenses, just like depreciation, except we don't use accumulated amortization accounts. Works just the same. We're writing it off over time. Typically what we do is we debit amortization expense and credit the intangible assets. You read about that? Right? So it's kind of easier, really. Same with depletion expense, debit depletion expense, and usually credit the asset itself. We don't usually use depletion damage a lot. Most people don't. Okay? But it's just like depreciation. You're using it up over time, huh? Okay. All right. So for next time, this is going to be all about liabilities. Next chapter is liabilities, current liabilities. And we've already looked at current liabilities a lot. We've done accounts payable, right? They'll do some payroll type stuff. Take a look at that. Different accrued liabilities. You've been doing some of those. Remember we did all those deferrals and accruals? Right? Accruing liabilities, that's it. Anyway, the key thing to get out of this chapter, I think, well, we'll get that stuff, obviously, when you read it, you'll work on it, okay? And we'll do some in the review session, and we'll do some, we got another class, right? Friday. We'll do some of the stuff. And on Friday, we can cover whatever you want. It's sort of like a review of this stuff, get in more depth, probably, on this stuff. Present values. I know you guys have done this before. Probably started, when you start doing compound interest? What grade are you in? Fifth? Maybe sixth? Probably ought to be before that, so people think they're still better. Like other things you really understand well. I know, it's pretty early, but certainly seventh grade. Yeah, somewhere there. Interest on interest? Don't remember. Wasn't paying attention back then? Yeah, okay. All right. Present value. So we were going to do present values. Now here's the deal. When somebody gets into this, you do it in math class, right? When somebody writes down some mathematical notation, that's what that is, and you don't know what it means, what should you do? Ask. If you don't, you're a crazy person, right? You're probably not the only person who doesn't know. And people will use all sorts of different notation to mean the same thing. It sucks, right? So when you get into finance, you're going to do Finance 315, all of you that are a business major, right? Or certainly accounting, finance, right? Majors. You're going to do this, okay? When you get into Finance 315, they're going to expect you to already know it. And then I'll show you how to do it again. I'm going to go through it here. You've gone through it before in math classes and probably didn't know what you were doing, why you were doing it, okay? Everything is valued this way. Everything is valued this way. Everything's worth it. This kind of present value is future cash flows. It's really sad, but so are we. If I get run over out there, which almost happens every day, right? If I get run over out there and I'm dead, my wife is going to sue for the discounted present value of everything I'm ever going to make for the rest of my life. That's what she can collect. You're not going to get more than that, right? But you will debate over how much that is. So, how risky is it? Well, probably they think he was going to die anyway tomorrow. He wasn't even going to earn another dime. Or he's 65, he should have retired anyway. He's worthless, so it's worthless. He didn't get anything. And what would her attorney argue? He was going to work till he's 80. He was in great health. Yes, right? For life. Okay? So, he's going to work till he's 80. And he's going to keep making what he makes now, plus raises. Right? Of course. And there's no risk of that. Why do we care about risk? Oh, that's going to be in the interest rate. Okay, so you did this stuff, but I'm not sure you knew what you were doing, why you were doing it, right? You just have these examples. Okay, here, calculate this, don't you? Math classes. Anybody have a math class where they're really connected to economic reality someplace? Or to life in general? That's too bad, because math is really, really valuable. And I sort of had the same attitude when I went through K through 12. It's kind of, why do I have to learn this stuff, right? It's good stuff. That's why you need it. Anyway, so present value, OPV means what? Present value. What does zero mean? Now. Time zero is now. That's it. Okay? Future value. What does that mean? It's the value in the future. If I invest money now, what will it grow to? Right? The present value is how much I invest now. The future value is what it's going to grow to. No kidding. Or if I'm going to get money in the future, that's the future value. And I can calculate how much I'd be willing to invest now. This is how we value business deals. That's how we do everything. What's a truck worth to UPS? The discounted present value of all its future cash flows. By the way, does Ford know that UPS knows that? Yes. Guess what Ford tries to do? They try to guess what all those future cash flows are, so that they can get the highest price possible for the truck. You don't just pay. How many of you have you guys bought a vehicle before, or observed somebody buying a vehicle? You know, go through the process. Do you pay with the sticker price? No. No, that's just what they're asking, praying for, hoping for, right? I suppose some people pay that. Most people don't. What's the deal? That's a negotiating starting point. That's all. And a lot of people think, oh, well, you just negotiate. Well, you don't negotiate without any information, you'll lose. Right? You need to know how much you're willing to pay for it. And if it's higher than that, you're not going to. And if it's lower than that, you're thrilled. And if you're selling it, what do you need to know? So if you're UPS, you know how much you're willing to pay, right? If you're Ford, what do you know? How much you're willing to sell for it. And you know what? Both of them make exactly the same estimate, try to get as close as possible. So there's not very much negotiation has to happen. They already both know. But do they still try? Sure. Because if UPS gets the truck cheaper, they make more money. If Ford gets more for the truck, they make more money. And that's the manager's jobs, right? That's what you're trying to do. Okay? So you still negotiate. But you know what? If you don't know what you're doing and I know what I'm doing, you'll lose. You'll lose. Because you think, oh, that sounds like a really good price. Well, maybe. Right? Maybe not. Okay? Especially if I can manipulate the cash flows. Businesses do this to you all the time. I'll give you your gratification right now. You can have your money right now. But man, I'm going to take your wealth later. I'm going to get to you. I'm going to charge you 20% interest, right? You get to buy whatever you want right now. And I'm going to finance it for you. And you have little tiny payments. Of course, they're almost forever, but you know, they're little tiny payments. And I'm going to extract a whole bunch of wealth from you. It's okay. You agreed to it, right? So you want to know this stuff, you guys, so you won't agree to it, right? You won't buy in. It's not okay. We should be teaching kindergartners this stuff in the society we live in because there are so many people that are kind of predatory about it, right? They try to find people who don't know what they're doing and take their money, right? Poor people deal with this all the time. It's awful. Right? Horrible mess. And it's quite legal. We used to have usury laws that would keep people from charging interest rates that were over maybe 18%. That's gone. Payday loans, they can charge whatever they want. 200% a year interest and stuff like that. Yeah. So, not that you guys need to do payday loans ever in your lives. Anyway, you won't have to because you won't be desperate. Anyways, so future value, and then we put a little N next to it. What does that mean? It could be years, could be quarters, could be months, could be semi-annual periods, but it's what? Number of periods. Little n means the number of periods. That's it. So it's how much it's worth at some time out in the future. Got it? So I know you guys sort of knew this, but it needs to be really fresh in your mind. And all the way through your career is what you're doing, okay? What else relates to this stuff? Interest rate. What's an interest rate? That's going to be the discount rate, what we discount at. The cost of capital, you might say, right? It's how much interest we're either earning or being charged, okay? So we got interest, and then the last one is N, which is the same N as up here, okay? Number of periods, okay? So this applies basically. These are the things we need to do, present values of future values. Okay? By the way, that interest rate here consists of three things. True return or a real return. It's kind of like rent of the money. Right? It's kind of like rent of the money. Most theoreticians, finance, accounting, econ, researchers estimate this to be about 2 to 3%. And it's always 2 to 3% across time. It sort of stays there. That's because that's how much you get for renting your money. Right? That's it. 2 to 3%. Okay? Would any of you be willing to loan me money at 2 to 3%? You shouldn't be, because there's something else that happens. Actually, there's two things. Three components. You guys haven't experienced much of this in your lifetime, but you really have, you're just not aware of it. You guys have been around for 10 years, right? My wife's gone is 10 years old. From all of them. We got it for, she says, $31,000. Sticker was $39,000. Right? Got it for $39,000. The exact same car we'd have. The sticker's only about a 42. From 39 to 42, and you'd say, well, in 10 years, that's not much inflation. But guess what? You'd have to pay about 40 to get it. Because cars are popular right now. 10 years ago, people weren't buying very many cars because the economy wasn't so hot, right? So we got it. And now the economy's pretty good, by the way. It feels pretty good. Stock market's up, right? Unemployment's way down. It was a mess, right? Beginning of the recession, okay? Which is hangover, even though the politicians would like us to believe it's not. I don't know what we mean when it's good times, right? This is bad, really pretty good. But you guys are going to have all kinds of job opportunities to do well in school. You're going to get paid at a really nice time before the next downturn. Right? It's going to feel the science. Okay? So you guys are going to be in pretty good shape. And your careers will take off pretty well. It's pretty nice. If you graduated in 2008, oh man, that's awful. It's a mess. You better be one of the top for them. Okay? Now people with C+ averages are going to do good jobs instead of just B+. So it really, some of it's just luck of when things happen. Right? Not that those people can't be successful, of course, at this kind of place. Slows them down. Okay. Anyway, so what is the other piece? What's that I'm talking about? That car goes from 31 to say 39 for exact same car. A little fancier electronic stuff on it. But what's the deal? Which, by the way, costs less now than before. Okay, but what's the deal? It's called what? Inflation, right? There's inflation. Right now we don't have very much inflation, but gas prices cut in half too, right? So that's why we don't have much inflation. Other things are going up, right? Food's going up and stuff. Okay, anyway, there's expected inflation. And this is whatever it is. It's different at different times. You might have more, you might have less. So this is whatever it is, but it's kind of the same for all of us, okay? Theoretically, although probably not, because all I buy is beer, wine, and bourbon. But my wife buys everything else. So for me, inflation's a different rate than you who might buy all kinds of things, right? But really, it is dependent on what you're buying, what the personal inflation is, right? If you buy a house, if you buy a car, different inflation. If you buy clothes, different inflation. If you're buying food, well, everybody does that, except different types of food have different rates of inflation, right? Okay, so what we call these two put together is a risk-free rate. Okay? And it's a percentage, of course. Right now, the risk-free rate is right around 2 to 3%. What does that mean expected inflation is right now? Seeing as it's true return plus expected inflation. 0, and that's pretty much what we've had. Okay? But what happens, let's say expected inflation goes up to 4%. Where will we be? 6 or 7 on the risk-free rate. It'll just happen. Federal Reserve will raise their rates. We talk about the Fed all the time, in the news. Okay? Is the Fed going to raise the rates or not? Okay, that's what we're talking about. Then there's one other piece besides the risk-free rate. What's that? True return plus expected inflation. What's the other piece? Obviously, if that's risk-free, this is risk. It's called a risk premium. Okay, if we went to the bank and we tried to get a credit card, who doesn't have a credit card in here? Okay, all right. So these guys, it'll be terrible for the guys. If we go and we go get a credit card, I'll go and you go. Okay, we'll go in together, and we'll both apply at exactly the same time for a credit card. What's your interest rate going to be?
Higher, of course.
Yeah, yours is probably going to be 18 minimum, maybe more, 24 minimum. Don't ever put money on a credit card with 18% interest and not pay the bill at the end of the month. It's okay to have that credit card. You always pay the bill and never pay any interest, and then what do? Get a better credit card. Lower and lower interest rate after you establish your credit. But it helps establish your credit. There's nothing wrong with getting one. Just don't use it to borrow. Use it to buy stuff and then pay. It's just fine. Okay? And is it tempting, by the way, I'll pay it next month? Yeah, but 18%, you guys. All right? You're going to make them rich and you poor. Okay? Bank's idea. So if right now, let's say this is 3%, what's he giving them for a risk premium? 15%. But you know what? You're in a real high risk category. I'm in a real low risk category. I'm older. I have a fair amount, not a fair amount of wealth. I have enough wealth to pay off my credit card, right? Okay. You probably don't. Okay. If you put something on the credit card, they might get paid, they might not. Now you're a really good guy, so you would pay them. But he's not. And you're in the same category. About the same age, right? You guys are a high risk category because a whole bunch of you young guys are going to borrow money and not repay it. So guess what? You have to pay your interest rate for them not paying. The young women get a better credit card rate than guys. How come? They're in a more responsible group. That's right. And you know what? Everybody says men mature at a slower rate than women. Bull. We never mature. I refuse. How about you guys? What for? You know, women will do that for us. They can take care of us. Okay, yeah. Anyway, So that's what my wife says happened with us. She's 10 years younger than me, but far more mature than me. Okay, anyway, absolutely. So what if mine, I go in and mine's 5%, you guys? Might actually be less, I don't know. And this is still 3. What are they getting out of me, you guys, for risk? 2%. Got it? Now be okay. Everybody got it? So every single investment has a different interest rate, a different discount rate. Based on what? What's going to drive differences in rates on all different investments? If you're in the stock market, you've earned 12 to 13% over the last 30 or 40 years. Okay? That's in the stock market. If you're in the bond market, you're earning about 8%. Oh, so this is stock. This is bonds. If you're doing certificates of deposit, CDs at a bank, you're earning 1%, which is less than inflation. You're losing money. Okay? Savings accounts are even less than that, aren't they? Right? Unbelievable. You almost pay them to take your money. Right? Okay? So you know what they do though? They get the money from you at 1% and then they invest it at 12 to 13. How does that work out for them? They get to keep the difference. Huh? What would I encourage you to do, seeing as you're really young? If you're going to invest for a long time, get into stock. Okay? And don't just buy a stock at random. Don't do that. Because if you buy one stock and it goes down in value to nothing, you lose all your money, right? You buy what's called a diversified portfolio. You can buy into mutual funds that buy a little tiny piece of the S&P 500 or the Dow Jones or whatever, any one of the indexes. And you own a little tiny bit of a whole bunch of different stocks. What happens if one goes up? Well, another one will be going down probably, right? But what do you earn? You own, you own a little tiny piece of 1,000 stocks, right? Or even a couple of hundred stocks. 30 is supposed to be the magic number for your own investing, right? 30 very different types of stocks would be enough. What happens if you enjoy it, you do that kind of stuff? Don't own 1 or 2 shares of stock. It's like owning one house instead of 100 houses, right? The one house could become worthless, right? Just because the neighborhood falls apart. Or you could make a lot of money on it, right? But it's more risky, right? It's either going to go up or down. But if you have 100 houses across a whole bunch of different neighborhoods, it'll even out. Some will go up, some will go down, maybe. Okay? Usually not. Real estate only gets about 3-4% a year. Okay? It's better than saving. Not as good, but you get to live in a house too. So figure that out. Okay? But it's not as good as the bond market. Why is the bond market get so much lower return? It's debt. Who gets paid first? Debt holders or equity holders? You guys know this, don't you? Debt holders, right? They get paid first. It's less risky. You got less risk, you get less return. That's how it works, right? But you're less apt to lose your money, huh? Doesn't mean it can't still go down in value or up in value. It will, right? You don't always make exactly the same amount in bonds, right? Because we're trading those too. Okay. So what we've got, then what would it look like then? What do you think is the deal if this is 12 to 13%? Although right now it's probably not that high. Right now, probably in the stock market, you would expect, seeing as this is 3, you'd expect to earn somewhere between, I don't know, 8 to 10, people would probably predict, because there's no inflation right now. In whatever a normal market is, we think it's a normal market, it'd be more like this. By the way, do you really earn 12 to 13% every year? Of course not. In 2008, I lost half of what I was worth in 3 months. And it took a number of years to get back there. And the past year, we lost some again. After doing really well for 6 years. So, does it vary? Sure. So, if you need the money right now, you want to be in the stock market? Maybe not, if you're going to use the money in the next few months. What if you're not retiring for, I don't know, 50 years, in your case? You can go up and down, can't you, in the market? You only lose money if you sell your stock. You don't lose money when the price changes. Still feels bad, right? Because you thought you were getting richer, and now you find out, oh, I'm not getting rich as fast, right? And it goes down. Should you ever sell because it goes down? No, you should buy when it goes down, right? What do you want? You want an investment that you're going to buy cheap and then it goes way in value and sell it for a lot more than you bought it for? Or you want to buy it high, watch it go down, and then sell it because you panic which is what people do on the market, by the way, all the time. It's nice they do that for us. Those of us who don't sell, it's nice that other people are doing that for us, right? Because all that market adjustment doesn't affect me. I don't sell anything. And my wife and I buy every month, no matter what the market is. Why do I buy when the market's high? Because I don't know when it's going to quit going higher. And if I'd ever get out when I thought it wasn't going to go higher, if I'd have done that across my career, I'd be a lot poorer than I am now. Because it's irrational. It's going up, going up, going up, and all of a sudden down. You have to get used to that. See you guys. Read this chapter. You haven't. Probably haven't. Read it carefully.